Hi, to round off our look at mineral properties, I want us to have a look at the minerals you need to know. There are 10 minerals that are listed on the course specification for GCSE Geology. So these are 10 minerals that you need to be able to identify, either from their description or from a specimen of that mineral that's given to you in the practical exam. The minerals and their properties are listed in the table on page 9 in your Theme 3 booklets. The minerals I want to focus on to start with are what we call the rock-forming minerals. These 5 minerals that you can find at the top of the table are all silicates. So these are some metal bonded together with silicon and oxygen. These minerals form the bulk of rocks, in particular all igneous rocks, most metamorphic rocks, and a lot of sedimentary rocks. So if we're going to be able to identify rocks, it's really important that we can identify these 5 key minerals. Now I'm going to explain what the properties are and show you some of the properties in a moment. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to listen carefully and work out which are the key properties, which are the ones that help us work out what these minerals are, and highlight those properties on your table. There may be some other properties as well that you want to look at. You can add those on the right hand side of your table. Okay.
These are the rock-forming minerals. We call them that because these are really important minerals that make up an awful lot of the rocks that we see. In particular igneous rocks, but also metamorphic rocks, perhaps to a lesser extent sedimentary rocks. These minerals all have distinctive properties. Let's have a look at these minerals in turn and talk about their distinctive properties. You can add extra information to your mineral properties table to help you to recognise these when you need to do that in practicals. Let's start with this mineral. This is quartz. You can see that this particular example is a really well-formed hexagonal shaped crystal that comes to the prism top. It's very distinctive when it's like this, but we know that not all quartz forms these beautiful hexagonal crystals. But this mineral does share one property with all other quartz, and that's its hardness. It has a distinctive hardness of 7, much harder than a knife or a nail. Its colour, this particular one is colourless, but its colour can be very, very varied. It's not very helpful at all. The key property is its hardness. The second mineral is this one. This is feldspar. And if we look at this particular mineral, we can see that it has 2 flat planes of cleavage. There's one here and there's one here. And those 2 planes of cleavage are at 90 degrees to each other. Where you'd expect a third plane perhaps, it's not there. It's quite rough. So we've got a rough surface here. It's just a fracture, it's not a cleavage. Opposite that, again, another rough surface. The colour of this mineral, see this is white. There are quite a few white minerals. It's not particularly distinctive, but the cleavage in this is distinctive. Also, the hardness of this, it's a hardness of 6, so it's a little bit harder than a knife. But it's the cleavage that's the key to identifying feldspar. The third mineral on our list is augite. This is an igneous rock that contains a lot of augite. Augite is the very dark, sort of black coloured mineral that we can see in this rock. You can see there are some quite large crystals of augite in this particular specimen. Now, augite does have a distinctive colour. It's black. We can also identify some cleavage in this, although these particular crystals don't show it very well. These two have two planes of cleavage at 90 degrees to each other. But we can tell it's not feldspar because it's black. It's distinctively this very dark colour. The hardness is about the same as a nail, but really it's the colour and the cleavage in this one that tells us what it is. Our next mineral is olivine. Olivine is this mineral here, the very distinctive green coloured mineral in this particular rock. Now, olivine is one of the minerals that does have colour as its distinctive property. Olivine looks really like shards of bottle glass, green bottle glass. It's vitreous, and it has this distinctive bright olive green colour, hence its name. The final rock forming mineral is this one. This is mica. Mica is very distinctive, mostly because of its single plane of cleavage. So it creates these foliated crystals, and these foliated crystals will flake. It separates into these thin, flexible sheets. This particular mica is a silvery one. It can also be brown in colour. They tend to reflect the light very well. Very often in rocks, these will look like little bits of glitter. But it's very, very distinctive stuff. That flaky crystal, that basal one plane of cleavage is very distinctive. So those are our rock forming minerals. Each of them has a characteristic or a set of characteristic properties. Can you apply those characteristics to actually identify these minerals in rocks?
Okay then, let's review what we've just seen. Remember, we're trying to find out the key properties that will help us identify these minerals. So for quartz, we have its hardness, much harder than a knife. Also the hexagonal crystals that can, but don't always, grow. Feldspar, which we know is light in colour, has these two good cleavages at 90 degrees. Augite is black in colour, again with two good cleavages at 90 degrees, but it's the only mineral that's on our specification that's black. Olivine has that distinctive green glass colour. And finally, mica has that basal cleavage, which also leads then to flaky crystals. So those are our key properties, what we call our diagnostic properties that allow us to identify each of these minerals. So, to summarise, these rock forming minerals, the ones that make up the vast majority of rocks, are really important to be able to identify. It is something that's going to come with some practice. You'll always have a mineral data sheet, a mineral properties table to help you identify them, but the more familiar you can become with these, the easier it's going to be once we move on to start studying rocks. There are 5 other minerals we need to talk about, but that's for another lesson. I'll see you then.